I was a teacher today. Welcome to the SEC.
You're watching Inside SEC Basketball Live with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
And welcome into Inside SEC Basketball Live. I'm Curtis Wilkerson, joined as always by Andrew Ellis to talk all things SEC hoops ahead of the final week of the regular season. It's crazy. It feels like we just got this thing started, yesterday, but here we are, man. The calendar has officially flipped to March. We are, I guess 1 week from right now, we will have an SEC tournament bracket to break down in Nashville. So we're reaching the conclusion of the season, man. It's bittersweet, but it's exciting all at once. Still a lot to be decided and still at stake before we get to that, though. And we're here to talk about, all of these things, and it's wild out there on these streets. But I appreciate everybody for hanging out with us. Get your questions and comments in the chat. Andrew, appreciate you being here as always, my man. How you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Yeah, only 1 week left of SEC regular season play. It is crazy. There's a lot to be decided in terms of seeding, but I got to say, when we were putting together these power rankings, I feel like there's not that many teams who have arguments in terms of where their place is in the SEC. We always joke or we're like, oh, we don't want it to look exactly like the standings, but it's like, you look at the standings, your record kind of is who you are what your record says you are at this point in the season. And so a lot of teams that kind of ended up where we thought they might, few that are starting to make a little ascension here down the stretch. And it's been fun to watch. And, it's a little bit tougher doing this coming off an Arkansas loss, but there's so much on the horizon that is exciting. We are now officially in the month of March too, so hard not to be excited.
Yeah, I know. I kind of got mad because on our Pot at the Palace show, I usually have it's like an upbeat, March the 1st, it's the best month of the year and everything. After Saturday's whipping, I was like, yeah, no, it's just another day on the calendar here. Before we get into all the madness of, we got to talk tiebreakers and seeding and bracketology and all that stuff. It only feels right to start by giving the Florida Gators their flowers. With Saturday's destruction of Arkansas, and it was that. Florida clinched at least a share of the SEC regular season title. They will be outright champs after they beat Mississippi State tomorrow night. Reigning national champs, they looked a little bit wobbly early in the season, but they have turned it on and just look terrific in conference play. I think they're in play for a 1 seed again. So clearly on a tier alone in the SEC. I think that reflects on the standings here in the end. What do you make of Florida and the run that they put on here? Really, throughout the entirety of SEC play, just 2 blips on the radar.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been unreal. It's kind of crazy to think that they started off 0-1. Of their little stumbles, one of them happened right off the bat. And so I think it took us until about maybe week 3 where we finally officially put them at number 1 in the power rankings. And you had teams like Vanderbilt and A&M that got off these hot starts, but I think Florida was kind of the team that we felt like was inevitable. And honestly, going back to how we felt at the beginning of SEC play, I think that you kind of compared them to someone like Bama. And Tennessee, we give them a lot of benefit of the doubt because of how consistent they've been. And you kind of thought, oh, maybe Arkansas is a team that has the talent. Florida has not only been better than all those teams, they have removed themselves from that conversation entirely. When we talk about the best teams in the SEC, it's always, obvious Florida's number 1. That next group kind of starts there. And I think we all view it that way, where there is a little bit of a gap. And if there weren't, if that weren't incredibly obvious to everyone, what they did on Saturday certainly signified that. But, and Saturday certainly was the culmination. And I think the most impressive part is we always talk about the guards and how they can't really shoot. And you're like, yeah, that's going to give them trouble. It really hasn't. And especially when those guards are starting to play a little bit better now down the stretch, they seem about as well-rounded as you can be heading into March. Now it's just a matter of seeing, will they, have anyone that's going to pose any type of issue for them prior to, say, the Elite Eight Final Four.
Yeah, they're the real deal, man. That front court is as good or better than advertised, and a lot of people think it's the best one in the country. Was super impressed with all those guys, and I think that allows the guards to, I don't want to say play over their head a little bit, but man, when you've got guys like Chinyelu and Thomas Houck and Condon, and you bring in Handlock, and when you've got that in your front court, back around the rim, you can gamble. You can be super aggressive defensively. I'm really impressed. What impressed me most about Florida, and I wasn't anticipating this, I know that they really like to get out and score in transition because they're easier to defend in the half court, but those dudes fly in transition. Like, their bigs were beating everybody down the floor. They're like a well-oiled machine right now, man. They look really good. So kudos to them. Well deserved. They're the best team in the SEC, and they got to cut down the nets. I saw they were putting up some new nets in the O-Dome today. tough scenes when you're the team that has to, take the L right before that happens. But let's get into our power rankings here, Andrew. Obviously, Florida, number 1, shocker. But there's like a ton of potential for moving and shaking here in the final week beyond that. So before we get into scenarios, let's kind of pull this up. I guess this is the last one we're going to do because the season's over, the regular season after this. Wouldn't make much sense to do this after the fact. But once again, like these are going to look, I mean, they're pretty true to the overall standings. Like when 90% of the games are played, it pretty much is what it is. But we have a couple differences that we can talk through, and obviously some teams who are really trending up or down in the final week. So I usually go first with these, Andrew. I'll let you go first and defend yourself. But there's really not a whole hell of a lot of difference here.
Yeah, I continue to feel like, there's like tiers to this thing. Florida is their own tier. I really do believe that. And then I think that Alabama starts that next tier, and I think it goes all the way down to, I don't know, maybe at least Tennessee and maybe even Missouri has now played their way into this tier. Kentucky, you could kind of make an argument. I feel like 2 through about 6 or 7 are all in the same stratosphere. Bama gets the benefit of the doubt, one, because they have the better record, but because they have beaten almost all of these teams head-to-head. Obviously have a head-to-head win over Arkansas. They split with Tennessee, didn't they?
Split with Tennessee. They beat Missouri and Kentucky.
Yeah, and so it's like that kind of gives them the benefit of the doubt. And, going into SEC play, we kind of just felt like Bama was going to be one of those teams. They've played pretty well without Bediako, as much as we, kind of thought, oh, this is a big deal. And if Bama sucks down the stretch, I don't think they've lost since he left the lineup. Or maybe at least one game or something like that. But they've been playing well. But I feel like, again, there's not much separation. You and I think we obviously disagree on the 4 through 6, and really it's not even as much of a disagreement. I'm just kind of going with gut with Tennessee because I feel like they are more reliable than both Missouri and Kentucky, but they have lost to both of those teams. So It's pretty easy to make an argument for one or the other. For me, I think those teams 4 through 6 specifically are so close that the head-to-head probably should matter, but I really just go with which team do you trust the most? And I think I trust Tennessee more than I trust Kentucky for sure, as long as they're not playing the head-to-head. And then Missouri, as good as they've been, it's not the most well-rounded resume. I think Tennessee just has a very defined ceiling, but they're as consistent as at beating the bad teams that you can't really count on with all these SEC squads.
Yeah. Florida obviously number 1. Alabama, they're in second place, so I got them at 2. Arkansas is a game ahead of the rest of the pack there, so I kept them at 3. And boy, they sure didn't look like the third best team in the league on Saturday, but up until that point, they've been playing good ball. I mean, they were, I think, number 7 in the country in the month of February. If you look over at Torvik, I think they're still top 10. So have been playing really well. We're coming off of 2 wins over tournament teams, and then they just got thumped. Like, there are levels to this. It's like we should have made a big gap from 1 to 2 from Florida all the way down to Alabama because it's sizable. I went with Missouri at 4. The sneaky Tigers, man, we did our bracket simulation last week, and we'll do it again here in a few minutes. And when we pulled it up, it was like, oh damn, Missouri's got a double bye. They snuck in there. It's playing out in real time.
And Curtis, they might get the 3.
They might.
In fact, I would borderline favor them too, because I think Arkansas is probably going to go 1-1 with a loss in Como this week. If I just had to guess, I think they beat OU. I think they beat Arkansas. I think Kentucky drops at least 1 game. I think Missouri's going to end up at that 3 spot.
It would not be surprising at all to see that play out. Heck of a week for them. They beat Tennessee at home. That was a huge result. And then they just avoided the banana peel, right? And went down to Mississippi State and took care of business down there. But the thing about Missouri, that main reason I had them at number 4, they're playing really well right now. They won at Rupp Arena, and then they beat Tennessee. So I went with the head-to-head to put them there.
Sure.
And I put Kentucky above Tennessee because they beat them twice. But I might have also preemptively been punishing Tennessee for the Nate Emmett thing. Like he's out for this game in the midweek, and that just didn't look good. And when they don't have him out there, I don't even know if Tennessee's I shouldn't say that they're not a tournament team. They're not very good offensively without him. And that's a problem that they're going to have to get figured out. I worry about the language that they're using to describe his injury and how he's going to continue to be evaluated. No timetable for return. We've heard that before, Andrew, leading into an NCAA tournament where you don't want your seed to be impacted by not having your best player. I'm not saying that's the case here, but you kind of have an eyebrow open of, I don't know what's really going on with Nate Emmett, man. That sucks too, because he's having a hell of a year.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think, for Missouri, the what have you done lately test, they passed that. I mean, obviously, they lost to Arkansas, but I believe they've only lost like 2 games since it turned to February. Like they've been on a nice little run here lately. And Tennessee, they're good. They just lose to every good team they play. They just have a
Yeah.
very clear ceiling. You would think Nate Ament, by the way, would be a part of, if you're going to finally get over the hump and beat one of these good teams, it's probably going to be because your star freshman went for 28 or something like that. So yeah, that is quite problematic. And if you think about it, that's when Tennessee, because early on in the first couple of weeks we did this show, Curtis, we had Tennessee at like 10 or 11 in one of those rankings because they were playing so bad. And we were like, dude, I don't know. This is, they're worse defensively than they normally are, and they can't score. Part of why they were able to stabilize is because of how well Nate Ament played. And I say part of, that was the thing. He raised his game to another level, and it kind of took Tennessee with him. And so, yeah, I now that I'm really thinking about it, they might be cooked. I didn't realize how bad it was. I knew he was going to be out for at least, probably the next game or so, but I didn't realize they really might not get him back like at all.
It was an uncomfortable deal. And I guess like an assistant coach spoke today. Rick Barnes made a statement, and then there was a release from Tennessee that came out that said, hey, he's not playing tomorrow, and he's got this going on, and we'll keep it. And everybody said something a little bit different. And it was all very much, we'll see kind of situation. So, and it was weird because it felt like he was trying to come back in for the second half, or I think he came out there at the start of warmups or something, and then it wound up not really happening, and they shut him down for the rest of the game. But I don't know what Rick Barnes' track record is. Is he in the John Calipari train of, if a guy tells me he's playing, I'm just going to play him, or does he set him out and get him healthy for March Madness? I don't know, but obviously, and we'll get ready to talk about it here in a second, that's a team who is battling for a double bye spot right now. I think they're in the most precarious position of the teams in contention there, but at the same time, they need it because they need to get healthy there. So it's a weird deal. We'll see what it looks like. Outside of that, it doesn't even really matter. I was impressed with Texas going and getting that win at Texas A&M on Saturday. Yeah. Vanderbilt just continues to not really impress me. I don't want to take anything away from Kentucky's win. That was a hell of a win. The way Vanderbilt handled them the first game, for them to turn around and get that revenge, I thought was impressive. But they seem like they've kind of been trending in the wrong direction, just like Texas A&M. Looks like that, Buckyball might be running out of gas there down the stretch, to the point where, and we'll talk about seeding later, but they're kind of in that, last four buys, in some cases, last four in situation. They're not safe at this point, and it's come up on them in a hurry.
Well, they're going to be safe real quick because they're going to beat Kentucky most likely, right? Speaking of A&M,
they should at home. If your backs are against the wall and you were playing for your NCAA tournament lives, and it's your last home game, and you press for 40 minutes against a team who, and hey,
with
listen,
no point guard.
No point guard. They've overcome. Aberdeen's done a nice job, but they do have some turnover issues at time. Like, if you're not going to win that one, you're without a pulse at this point, and maybe you shouldn't make the tournament. That's their best opportunity. It's a stamp opportunity too. Like, if they win that one, they're in. I don't think there's any question at that point. Kentucky's playing for a double bye and everything like that, so they'll be motivated too. Coming off of a nice win against Vanderbilt, but it's like, it's the first time they played well in 3 weeks. So I don't know, man. That's going to be a fascinating game to watch.
It will, and it's fitting that Vanderbilt and A&M have become right next to each other in the standings, because those were the two teams that early in SEC play, you kind of thought, okay, who is playing above? Like, who is, because we would have both those teams pretty high in our power rankings. It's like, all right, who do you feel like is maybe playing better than they actually are? Those were the two teams that were very obvious. And preseason, I think they've already clinched being better than either of us thought they were going to be preseason, I would imagine. Maybe not quite as much with Vanderbilt. But I think they've now settled into that range where it's like, you respect them because kind of what they've done at different points in the season. But I don't think anybody is fearing either Vanderbilt or A&M. If they're coming into your building, you're kind of like, okay, yeah, it's a good time to catch them. They've lost 7 of their last 11 or whatever. I do think there's something to having so many of your losses coming in the last 6 weeks. I just think mentally it's very different than if, you're Florida, where you lost 3 months ago, and it's like, dude, that was a whole different lifetime ago. That was 2025. That's completely different world. You know what I mean? And obviously Florida's just a different level. Curtis, I got to be honest. I'm stunned that our 13 through 16 matched up perfectly. it actually wasn't as straightforward there because so many of these teams have weird results against one another.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do.
Like LSU is completely horrible, but they did just beat Ole Miss in Oxford. And then Ole Miss got a really nice, I mean, I say really nice. They beat Auburn on Saturday.
A win they shouldn't have gotten, but yeah.
So I'm kind of stunned that we matched up there. But real quick, Georgia and Auburn were supposed to be the two teams that you kind of felt like were the inverse of Vanderbilt and A&M, where you're like, their record isn't great, but they're pretty dangerous. And then Auburn just completely left Georgia alone. They left Mike White alone. He's the only, sneaky, dangerous 500 team in the SEC.
Yeah, that's true. Georgia's been playing, I think, quite a bit better. They had a couple big results. They won at Kentucky. They beat Texas at home in a bubble game. Like that stuff was important for them. And yeah, Auburn just, what have they lost now? 7 out of 8. They're one game over 500. And I know the bubble's weak, and we'll talk about it again in a minute, but like, I just don't know how you can put a team like that in, especially when they don't look like they want to be in, man. And I was listening to Stephen Pearl earlier today, and he was saying that that Keyshawn Murphy was 20 minutes late to film, and so that's why he didn't start him. And it's like one thing after another with these dudes. So it's hard for me to take them seriously at this point, because it's like, oh yeah, well, if they win their last 2 regular season games and their first game in the SEC tournament, then they'll be enough above 500 to get in. It's like, do you trust them to do that? Because I don't.
There are 3. I would describe them as dog shit SEC teams that are not even going to even sniff the NCAA tournament. 3 separate SEC teams who are not going to even sniff the tournament. Their most recent win is Auburn, Oklahoma, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss. 3 of the 5, 6 worst, I mean, definitely worst records in the league. Not even, they don't even have a chance, a prayer of making the tournament. Their most recent win is Auburn, and they all happened pretty recently. It's like, you just can't afford to do crap like that. If the committee lets Auburn in, out, unless they just, maybe maybe if they get to the title game or something like that, and they rattle off like 3 really impressive, like beat Florida, beat, Bama or something like that. We can maybe talk, you beat Bama in the season finale or whatever, but like, I as it stands right now, if the committee is seriously going to let them in, it's a travesty.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I felt that way about North Carolina next year, to be fair. This isn't just like SEC, well, I guess this is the opposite of SEC bias anyway.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, man. It's a dangerous precedent to set. Here's the thing. Only 2 teams in the history of the tournament that have been 2 games over 500 have made it in. And that just seems like where they're headed. Like maybe they'll beat LSU. That's not a given after what we saw over the weekend. That will get them to 2, but they're going to Alabama. I know it's a rivalry and everything, but I just can't imagine them winning that game in their current state. So they will be going into the SEC tournament 1 game over 500. So like you would need to win at least a couple in there. Yeah. And then we're talking about just to get to 2 over. I don't know, man. I think I'm over it.
And then it's crazy with Missouri. You look at the metrics, and Missouri's going to make they've obviously kind of at this point stabilized as a for sure tournament team, but it's like, it's kind of crazy that Missouri on paper, based on the metrics, isn't as safe as Auburn.
Yeah.
And it's like their net is still hanging out at like 58 or something like that, or something stupid like that. And it's like, I just hope the committee's able to look at that, especially, I mean, if Missouri wins out, then obviously it's a no doubter. It doesn't matter, but like, I hope they're getting that benefit of the doubt and they're not like playing for their tournament lives this week.
Yeah, I hope so too. I feel like they're solid after last week, but you never know, man. With some of these things, it gets crazy out there. And yeah, and they've got some really good wins too. They also beat Florida. Missouri did. They won at Kentucky, and they got Vanderbilt. They got Tennessee. I mean, that's a nice collection of wins that they have going on there. For whatever reason, it doesn't seem like it's reflected in some of those metrics out there. Okay, so I'm going to pull up here the SEC tournament seeding as of today, and then we'll talk about the tiebreakers and stuff, and we'll do the simulator and see how we think this thing shakes out. It's kind of crazy what we're dealing with right now. So as things stand right now, Florida number 1 seed, Bama number 2 seed. That's pretty much locked in. Like technically, if Bama loses out and Arkansas wins out, they could take the 2 seed. I'm trying to think. I think Bama play at Georgia, and then they got Auburn at home. I would think that they're going to win at least one of those. But at any rate, then you have Missouri, Kentucky, and Tennessee all tied. And that's very interesting. So based on the tiebreakers right now, that 4th double bye goes to Missouri. then Kentucky gets the 5th seed, and Tennessee is 6th. Missouri has beaten both of them, so they win that little round robin there. But it's not that simple. It's not just a race for the 4. As you mentioned, Arkansas is not safe yet. And, there's a scenario where Arkansas could be the 4 seed. There's a scenario where they could not get a double bye and have to play on Thursday. If they win, they're at an advantage because they're 1 game up on the field, but I think it's tricky. We'll see what happens with Texas on Wednesday, but that game at Missouri to close the season is a tricky one. And so, like if Missouri handles their business tomorrow and Kentucky handles their business tomorrow, it doesn't matter what Tennessee does because Arkansas's got the direct tiebreaker over them. But there's going to be a lot of pressure on Arkansas going into that game on Wednesday against Texas.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm really worried about here is that Kentucky beats A&M in the midweek, which isn't a guarantee at all. But they beat, I assume Missouri's going to beat OU. And even if Arkansas does beat Texas, which would be nice and would make you feel a little bit better from every standpoint, but just kind of going for those next 3 days, not knowing what you need to do, not knowing how these other things are going to play out. That's what I don't want, frankly. So I would prefer if Kentucky would just go ahead and lose, Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever. I guess it's Tuesday because Arkansas is the only Wednesday game this week.
That?
That'll be nice. If we can go into that Wednesday game, knowing that Kentucky is kind of done there would make me feel a lot better. But going into Como Saturday is not going to be a fun one.
No, it's not. It'll be a buzzsaw in there. It's an underrated atmosphere in the SEC. It really is. When they're good and they're playing for something, it gets rowdy. So, and the truth of the matter is for Arkansas, that would be by far their best road win of the season to go down there and beat them.
It's crazy how that's played out that way.
It really is. It truly is. But yeah, just looking at the math to get a double bye, Alabama has one. Like they've clinched that. They clinched a 4 seed at worst. Like they're not locked into their spot. So I just put them on here just because. But if you look at Arkansas, the benefit for them is that they're 1 game up with 2 to go on the others in there. And they've got, tiebreakers in certain situations. I actually, of course, I made a typo on them having the tiebreaker over Kentucky. They don't, but Kentucky has the tiebreaker over Arkansas. They're 0-1 versus Bama and Kentucky. They're 1-0 versus Tennessee and Missouri is what that should say. Missouri is the tricky one here because any situation they get into where there's multiples, like multiple teams in a tie, not just 2, but like you can get to a 3-way tie or whatever, they've got the ultimate trump card because of that win over Florida. Because if the round robins are tied, then it automatically goes to, okay, what's the winning percentage of these teams against the top of the standings? And they're the only team that's got the dub over the top. And that's what makes it tricky right there with them. And then the other part of it is if it's Arkansas and Missouri who are in an outright tie, then that would go to that exact tiebreaker, even if it's just the 2 of them. So that's how Missouri could sneak up there and pass Arkansas. Kentucky, they're still live for it. They've just got the toughest schedule left. They have the tiebreaker over Arkansas head-to-head. They've got it over Tennessee. They lost to Bama and to Missouri there. But they're at Texas A&M. We just talked about that. And then they host Florida. So it's 2 really tough games. And they need to go 2-0 most likely if they're going to wind up getting it. Tennessee, I think, is just kind of screwed.
Yeah,
they don't have the tiebreaker
on everybody else.
And they can't pass Bama. So it's, I think
they just need everyone to lose out somehow except Arkansas and Missouri.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. That's tough.
I think Tennessee is the odd team out, and then we'll see from there.
The weird thing is from the Arkansas side is you would literally rather lose the Texas game and beat Missouri.
Yes.
Would be like obviously it would suck to lose that Texas game at home, but it's like that would be the better scenario. If you're going to go 1-1, the difference between those scenarios is almost night and day.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it truly is. So we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. In fact, let's do this right now, just like we did last time. So I've got that simulator that's pulled up. We'll plug all these games into the schedule. We'll pick them. It's just a week's worth of games, so it won't take us too long. And then I'll put the bracket up here on the screen. We'll see what we have going on. The first one, Auburn host LSU.
I'm going to give Auburn the benefit of the doubt here and say you're not that horrible. especially since you're still borderline projected to make the tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. They should get that done. I mean, good grief. Okay, Florida hosts Mississippi State. I don't see any drama there.
Sure.
Georgia hosts Alabama.
So now Georgia's safe right now for the NCAA tournament. Like they're not in like a, desperation mode type of thing here.
They're safe for sure. Probably their last home game. I look at it and I see Alabama coming off of that emotional road win at Tennessee, and I'm like, ooh, letdown spot. Phylon's not 100%. So I could see something crazy happening there. Not that this is going to matter really with their seeding, but it's an interesting game. It's a tricky spot. Bama's the better team.
Yeah, I think Georgia is going to give up a crisp 119 points in this game. I do think they're like live, but I do think if Bama hits 25 threes, then that's just how it's going to go. I think Bama's going to score a lot on Georgia.
I think so too. So we'll go Bama there. Vanderbilt is on the road at Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss got their last win of the year.
I would agree, and especially because Vanderbilt doesn't need a win or anything like that. But you need a win for your just morale, just to make sure that you are not straight booty. Like if you lose this game, you are officially like the team everyone is going to be begging to see in the tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another interesting game here. More interesting than it looks like on paper. Oklahoma is at home against Missouri, and you look at it and you go, okay, one of the bottom teams of the SEC, Missouri, should go over there and handle business. The game in Columbia, it took them two buzzer beaters to beat Oklahoma. Missouri's playing a lot better now than they were then, but so is Oklahoma, man. Like they've beaten Vanderbilt, they beat Georgia, they beat Auburn. Like they beat a number of teams in there. I think they're 4-2 over their last 6. They won over the weekend too. Were they playing LSU or something? So I don't know.
They went 2-0 last week, I think.
Yeah, they're playing better. So not out of the realm of possibility. I think Missouri's going to beat them personally, but
I do too. Especially because I think Missouri, now it's tough to do this like next game up mentality for 9 games in a row, which is kind of what Missouri's been doing here. So they're maybe they do slip a little bit, but I think because they are not guaranteed anything yet. Like they are a bad loss away from not knowing if they're going to make the tournament. In which case, they would just need to go beat Arkansas and then they'd be fine. But like they really can't afford this. And Oklahoma is dangerous, man. But
if those guards start hitting threes, it's like
for sure. The thing that'll help is I can't imagine there's going to be that many fans at this game.
No, there won't be. There definitely won't be. We'll stick with Mizzou though.
Yeah, we'll go with Mizzou.
I feel like we would be like manipulating the data.
We gave Mizzou so much credit last time. We might as well keep just rolling it through.
Exactly. Even without Nate Ament, I think Tennessee wins at South Carolina. I know South Carolina's better at home, but come on.
Tennessee doesn't lose games like this most of the time.
They really don't. Yeah, they truly don't. What do you think about this Texas A&M Kentucky game? It's at Texas A&M. We just kind of talked about some of the factors in there.
Yeah. I don't. So I never have a good feel for A&M's atmosphere of like how their fans really feel about basketball. Like, are they?
It was lit Saturday until Tremont Mark shut them up.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this is a very winnable game for A&M, and they're both teams are they don't really need it from a tournament seeding standpoint, really. So I don't know if that really factors in here. Like, I don't think there's going to be a difference in motivation between the two teams. I'm going to lean A&M because they are the more consistent performer. Now their consistent level that they perform to is, just pretty good. They don't really get up and beat great teams often, but I don't think Kentucky's a great team. So I think I actually expect A&M to win this game.
I could see it going either way. I think Kentucky's the better team. I think the style of play for Texas A&M could be real tricky, and it's in College Station. I will say it doesn't really matter that much because I think Kentucky's going 1-1 this week, regardless. If they beat Texas A&M and Florida this week, like that's a hell of a job and a hell of a way for them to close. I just haven't seen enough consistency from them to feel like that's a likely outcome. Right. So I'm gonna kind of punt and go 1-1. So would you rather take this as the loss
So we're picking. We're agreed. We're picking them to beat Florida.
If I pick Texas A&M to beat them, I'm picking them to beat Florida.
I think I like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Because Florida also like genuinely will not care about that Kentucky game. Like they won't care about the SEC tournament, but like they really will not care about going to Rupp.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. And that's a good thing for Kentucky, by the way, because the metrics don't give a damn. They're going to be coming in there and everything will already be clinched. It'll be decided. They got the 1 seed. All those things there. Maybe they're trying to get a 1 seed for the big tournament, and that could motivate them. But I don't know, man. I wouldn't be surprised if Kentucky got them there in Rupp. And it's not an easy game to play in there either.
No.
Arkansas versus Texas. This is an interesting game because I worry about Volkatitis and I worry about Swain for Texas.
Yeah.
Up front there, but at the same time, if you think Arkansas's defense is bad, where do you get a load of Texas? Like they're outside the top 100 in the country this year. Both offenses are pretty good. Arkansas hasn't lost back-to-back games this season. When they've been spanked by Auburn, they turned around, they won their next game by over 30 points. When they got spanked at Georgia, they turned around and beat, I guess it was Vanderbilt, whoever their next game was, by 25 points. They got spanked at Florida. It's your last home game in Bud Walton Arena. I don't think it's going to be that easy. I don't know that they're just going to dog walk Texas like that, but I would be pretty surprised and disappointed if Arkansas doesn't win that game.
I would agree. I think Arkansas usually just takes care of business at home. Even in their not great performances, they usually find a way to win most of those times. So I think even if Arkansas has to win ugly here, I think they're very capable of doing that. And, just down the stretch, Darius Acuff, a pretty good free throw shooting team for the most part. I think Arkansas can maybe win a, uncomfortable game if they really need to here. I also think Texas is strangely one of the more reliable teams in the SEC. Like they don't really get too high or too low. Everyone else has kind of gone on like a 5 or 6 game win streak and then maybe a 2 or 3 game streak where they're losing. Texas is just kind of, they'll beat a pretty good team. Then they'll maybe lose a game that you're like, oh, I didn't expect them to lose that one. Then they'll beat 2 good teams. And it's like, they just have been pretty steady throughout SEC play. Coming off a nice performance against A&M, I think winning this game would mean that Texas is like actually good. And I'm not saying they can't be that, but I don't know. I don't know if that's like, I just don't see that being the story Thursday morning. Is like, oh, wow, Arkansas really has issues and Texas is emerging as a juggernaut. I don't think that's what's happening.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Okay, so then the Saturday slate of games here. Alabama hosts Auburn.
They beat them.
Yeah, I think so too.
Even though they don't need the game, wanting to beat Auburn will be enough. And Auburn doesn't care.
Yeah, exactly. We agreed on Kentucky.
Yes, they're beating Florida.
Okay. Texas A&M is at LSU.
They win.
Okay.
Aggies win.
Arkansas at Missouri.
I've got Missouri in this game. I can't shake it.
I know.
And it's also, we predict, we have A&M beating Kentucky, on Wednesday or whatever, which would mean that Arkansas would go into this game knowing that they have a double bye, right?
They're
if they beat Texas, so then they would go in knowing, hey, we don't really need to win this game. I think also Missouri is going to be fired up. Their final home game. They've had a nice little run here down the stretch, and they're playing with a lot of confidence. I think they give Arkansas a lot of trouble.
I think so too. I looked at it from a number of standpoints when I was thinking about this, because on one hand, you could also look at it in favor of Arkansas. Like they won the first game, so now Missouri's at home. They're out for revenge and all that, and it was a good competitive game. That's all true. But I will say that Missouri shot like 55% in that game and lost. Like there is a world where they just kind of play the way they typically do, because they actually played a really good game offensively, and Arkansas did too. I just think that's more repeatable for Arkansas. Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me if Arkansas went over there and beat them.
It wouldn't.
Aside from the fact that we're still waiting to see them win a road game like that against a tournament team. Now they showed really, really well at Alabama, but they still lost that game. And then what decided it for me was the short rest. And that's not it's not like oh man, this is SEC bias, they're getting screwed or whatever. No, it's not that, but it is true when we're talking about a shorthanded Arkansas team or a team that's short on depth in
Mhm.
Arkansas. A cuff is banged up and everything, so it's like, dang man, the most rest they can get, the better. They just happen to be the one team that's playing on Wednesday that also has to travel for their Saturday game, that also has an 11 a.m. tip. Missouri's going to have the full extra day of rest, and they're going to be at home. That is an advantage for Missouri. It doesn't mean forfeit the damn game, but it does. It impacts things. I think Missouri might win that game at home too.
One, they will be more motivated then, right? Because if Arkansas's clinched a double bye, Missouri will have not yet, right? Do I have that math right?
Wait, say it again.
Like if everything's playing out the way we expect it to going into this game, Arkansas will have a double bye clinched. Missouri will not. Does that sound right?
If I'm
like, because Missouri can't afford to lose to Arkansas if they want a top 4.
Correct. Yeah, I think
so
that
I think they will have a little bit more motivation potentially.
If Kentucky loses if Kentucky loses tomorrow and Arkansas wins, then Arkansas is good to go.
Yeah,
because it doesn't matter what.
Still going to need it no matter what.
Yeah, it's right. It doesn't matter what Tennessee does, and Missouri would be the one at question. I think, and we're getting ready to find out because we'll do the simulator. I think that scenario playing out with Missouri then winning against Arkansas would, I think, make them the 3 and Arkansas the 4. I think is how it shakes out. We'll see.
And that's kind of where my head's at right now.
Right. God, I'm almost to the point of just outright banning cats altogether. He's really just going out of his way to be a douche lately, and that's weird because we're actually really nice to him. I literally stopped short, you idiot, and said that they're down a guy. Okay, they're down one guy right now. They're short on depth, is what I corrected, which is true. It's a roster building thing, and then they're down Carter Knox. And so the team is a little bit worn down. They're without Darius Acuff. You know that. And right, even after I correct it, you got to still come in here and say something. I just don't understand why you feel like you have to do that. It's crazy.
It's an accurate description of what is happening in real life. It's
literally
not
a thing. Like
that's why Arkansas has ever lost a game, and it's not John's fault. It's just we're just talking about what's happening in real life.
It's unreal, man. It's crazy. Ole Miss hosts South Carolina. Maybe Ole Miss will get another win.
Yeah.
At home?
You said Ole Miss is hosting them?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they probably beat South Carolina, honestly.
Mississippi State at home against Georgia.
Georgia's got to win this game. They don't have to win it, actually. But, yeah, this is the type of game that, when you're in that range of on the good side of the bubble, you just don't want to do anything that stupid. And I think Georgia, who did they just play in the midweek? I'm going to say in this scenario, like who do they play tomorrow?
About Georgia?
Yeah.
They host Alabama.
And yeah, I think they're going to lose that game. We agree they're going to lose that game. So I think Georgia is not going to come in like guns a-blazing, like we must win. But I think they're going to want to, you're a real basketball team that's going to play in March. They're not. You got to win that game. I think they do.
Right. This is an interesting game. Tennessee at home against Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt is not good on the road. They are just not. I would imagine it doesn't sound like Nate Amen's going to be available. I'm inclined to still think Tennessee wins.
At home, I would think so, even though I realize that they just lost in there.
Yeah.
But still, Alabama clears Vanderbilt.
It's not like Tennessee, by the time Saturday rolls around, one, they will have already played a game without Nate, but they've got 6 days to talk about it, figure out what they want to do. And we see teams all the time kind of rise to the occasion. Easier to do that at home. I actually think I'm leaning Tennessee in this one.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Texas at home against Oklahoma.
Texas beats them. As much as we have a newfound respect for Porter Moser going out on a shield, that's what we call this. He's not just mailing it in and saying, "Oh, I'm fired." Like he knows he's not. He's never going to be at Oklahoma again. But he's going out on a shield a little bit. They're playing real basketball, but I think they lose to Texas.
He's for sure. Actually, never mind. We'll save that conversation because I already have a chat start about it. So
perfect.
Okay, so I've got the bracket here based on what we just did. So let me pull it up real fast. Give me just a second.
I heard the screenshot noise earlier, so I knew that was there was something going on.
That's right. Okay. And there we go. So this had Florida as the 1, obviously Alabama at the 2. Yeah, this scenario would give Missouri. How about that? The 3 and Arkansas the 4. Tennessee 5, Texas A&M 6, Kentucky 7. That's how did they fall? I guess it's got to be some tiebreaker stuff. And then Texas 8.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that looks, other than Missouri being 3, which I know just kind of looks out of place because nobody saw that coming, but I think this is about right, man. I think this is pretty. I don't know. This just makes sense to me. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So I see what's happening here. So yeah, Arkansas would have the tiebreaker over Tennessee because they would both be at 12 and 6. Missouri would have the tiebreaker over Arkansas by virtue of their win over Florida.
Right.
So that's how 3, 4, and 5 shake out. Texas A&M and Kentucky would both be 11 and 7, and Texas A&M would have just beat them. So if we flipped it, and Kentucky had beat A&M and then lost to Florida, I think that Kentucky would be the 6 and then A&M the 7. So there we go.
Gotcha. Well, then yeah, that's perfectly fine. So I guess it doesn't matter. It's not like either team's going to drastically change their standing. So honestly, this midweek game that Kentucky and Texas A&M are playing is somewhat useless, unless Kentucky's going to beat A&M and Florida, which we weirdly enough, like, we agree is not going to happen. Like, if they do beat A&M, they're not beating Florida, and if they lose to A&M, they're very live.
It's a good observation by Peyton. He said that Vandy gets the Wednesday sadness in this scenario.
That is
they'd be a 9 seed in the SEC tournament and a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. Congratulations.
Yeah, ain't that something?
It's crazy, man. Crazy. That's wild. And so, okay, now how were we harsh on Vanderbilt? What do they have? We have them beating Ole Miss and then losing at Tennessee. That's probably what's going to happen. So,
gosh, I'm trying to think of like who would have to. Texas would have to lose to somebody stupid. Who's Texas play Saturday? You just said it. Was it Mississippi State?
Oklahoma.
Yeah. I mean, like, in which Oklahoma's, they're very live. They can make that happen. But it's like, yeah, I think if it plays out the way it's supposed to, Vandy is playing Wednesday Night Sadness. Wow.
Yeah.
This is what's good about this exercise. We didn't know the Missouri thing was happening until we did the exercise, and we were like, oh, my God, Missouri's about to get a double bye. And sure as hell, they're 2 games away from doing just that. I did not realize Vanderbilt was in danger of playing on Wednesday.
Me either. I did not realize that either. I'm wondering if Missouri, are they locked in to a double bye? I guess not. If they lost both games this week, they wouldn't be.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, there's a lot. Yeah. Actually, I think there's actually like kind of a decent amount of scenarios, right? Because
yeah. I was overthinking it.
Because like if they go 1-1 and Kentucky and whoever and Tennessee go 2-0,
right?
Then they're out that way.
Yeah, they'd be out that way.
Yeah, we were like, shit, Missouri might just be the 1 seed.
Yeah. Why? It's the conference champs at this point. Why not? Good on them, man. They figured some things out.
What's crazy, Curtis, is that they could clinch it by Wednesday night, basically.
Yeah.
Like if Kentucky loses and they win, they're a double bye.
So so let's think about this real quick. If Kentucky loses to A&M, but then Missouri beats Oklahoma, Arkansas beats Texas, are the seeds set at that point? I think they are.
Top 4?
Yeah. And then it's just a matter of who gets the 3 and who gets the 4 between Arkansas and Missouri.
I think
that might be what it is.
If our math is correct, which I think it is.
Okay.
And then, yeah, there's all these random little battles at 7 and 8 and 8 and 9 or whatever, but who cares?
Yeah, this is wild. This is absolutely wild. Okay. Real quick, and then we'll get in the chats and we'll get out of here. But I just wanted to, because the bracket matrix, after the weekend, it updated. So we've got like all the new average seeds for all the SEC teams. So I'm just going to throw them out there, and then we can just say if we agree or if we think they're going to be better or worse. They're not going to change much at this point. Go ahead.
I want to make clear, Doug, we did a whole segment where we did like hypothetical. We picked the games and what we thought was going to happen. And that's how we did it. Like that is the bracket we just showed is not the current SEC standings.
We showed those two.
Yeah.
Here are because you might have hopped on while we were in the middle of doing it. These are the seeds.
Right. That's current right now. What we just showed you is not right now.
Yeah. We simulated the rest of the week there. Okay. So I'm gonna give you a team and I'm gonna give you where they're seated, and let's talk about what we think about it real quick. The top one is Florida, who right now is their average seed is 1.93, but they are the top 2 seed at the bracket matrix. The ones are Duke, Michigan, Arizona, and Connecticut. I will just point out real quick, 3 of those teams beat Florida head to head.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, as much as that, like, top 2 seed sounds like you're like really close to a 1 seed, I don't know how close Florida actually is to a 1 seed. Because which one are they going to jump? UConn?
And UConn is one of the teams that beat them head to head, so that's tough.
Yeah, which I mean, you can jump someone to beat you head to head, but it's like, yeah, I don't think Florida, like, I don't think they're in a position to necessarily do that. And that's just based on my light understanding. But I think that Florida is now like locked into a 2 seed, which when we did this last week, they were like a mid-range 3 seed. I feel like because we were kind of like, dang, like could they get to 2? But yeah, they're locked in at 2, and I think that's where they deserve to be.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case. The only way I could see them getting to a 1 would be if Connecticut, if UConn takes a weird loss in here somewhere, which is, the Big East is good for it. There's a lot of weird losses, and they kind of continue to win their way through. Then maybe Florida could get 1. But yeah, I think they're going to be the top 2, and honestly, they might prefer that. Okay, who else? Let me go through this real quick. Vanderbilt is still coming in as the top 5 seed.
That's crazy. I think 7 is probably where they end up.
Yeah,
because I think they're going to lose at least 1 game here, and I think the committee is going to grow a pair of nuts and be like, no, I don't care what the Pythagorean theorem says. If you lose 8 of your last 12 games, you're not getting a great seed.
Yeah, I don't think Vanderbilt's going to get a 5. I think they're going to be a 6 at best when it all shakes out. I overlooked Alabama there. Alabama is the second 4 seed at this point,
which sounds right.
So they've got Georgia on the road. That's a quad 1 game. Auburn at home is a quad 2. And then whatever in the SEC tournament, we know that doesn't impact a whole bunch. That's probably about where they're going to wind up, right? Like they
stay at 4, even if they go, 3-1 down the stretch or whatever.
Kansas is ahead of them on the 4 line, and then would they pass Texas Tech or Purdue or Nebraska? I don't know if they would. I think
Nebraska would maybe be the 1. But I don't know, but Nebraska's like
they keep winning.
Yeah, and they only have good losses.
That's true.
Like they don't really have a ton on their resume that's like, oh man, this huge black eye here. I think Bama probably stays at that 4 line, especially because they just recently have now been solidified as a 4. And so even though they are the number 2 4 seed, it's I feel like they're probably good there.
Right. Let's see who's next on this. Oh, Arkansas. Arkansas is the second number 5 seed. I think they're staying put.
I was gonna say I don't think they're bumping up to 4. Would I guess Tennessee also be in that 5 seed line, or do they fall off?
Tennessee is the bottom 5 seed at this point.
Oof.
So North Carolina is right ahead of them.
They currently project 3 SEC teams to get 5 seeds.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It's Vanderbilt, Arkansas, North Carolina, Tennessee on the 5 line. And then the 6s for reference, St. John's, Louisville, BYU, and then Kentucky, which we can talk about next. But
our guy Root Beer Enthusiast here says, is the ceiling 4 seed? And I believe it definitely is, right? I don't see any path now, even if Arkansas won out. Because if you win out now, beating Texas is what is that, a quad 2? Beating Texas at home.
Yeah.
Beating Missouri on the road would be a quad 1.
Quad 1.
Well, they're are they in the? They're
good. It's just got to be top 75.
Oh, okay, then yeah.
Good.
So that would be a nice little win there. But and so that would probably solidify you in the 4 seed line. If you go 2-0 here in the regular season, you'd probably be looking at the second or third 4 seed.
It would be close, yeah. Because if we're assuming Tennessee beats Vanderbilt, that would get you back over the top of them. And there's a lot of brackets that have Arkansas ahead of them. This is just the average of all. There's 105 updated brackets out there. And then I think it would be a matter of, does Virginia or Gonzaga lose another game in there? Does Gonzaga lose again to St. Mary's or something in their conference tournament? and what happens with Virginia, because those would be the teams that you would have to pass one of them.
Right. And then, like, we agree, SEC tournament, even if you go there and pick up some awesome wins, which Arkansas could do, you know what I mean? If you end up, not even saying, like, I just mean, like, they might play Florida, you know what I mean? So if they play Florida and beat Florida, that would be about as good of a win as you could pick up in the SEC tournament. I still don't think that would get Arkansas all the way up to 3 seed. If they won out, if they went 5-0, I still don't think Arkansas would be a 3 seed. I think they would probably be like the second 4 seed.
Yeah, I think that would make them a solid 4 there. Yeah, I think that's the ceiling, to answer the question.
So if you really think about it, Arkansas doesn't have much stake down the stretch here. Obviously, the double bye, that's their game here that you're looking at. But like, the worst thing that could happen is you drop to like the worst 5 seed, or you drop to a 6 and you avoid, all that altogether. But
then you have to worry about
5 seed or right in that range.
Yeah, I think they're going to wind up a 5. Kentucky has moved up to they're the last 6 seed. So
that sounds about right.
Basically, they could move up. Let's be clear about that, because you beat Texas A&M on the road, quad 1. You beat Florida at home,
that'd be
quad
awesome.
1. Like, that's 2 massive wins you could get right there. That's seed line type stuff for sure. If they were able to do that, if they split,
it would depend on what the split looks like. Maybe, because like if you beat A&M and lose to Florida, that doesn't hurt you, but that doesn't probably move you up much at all.
Yeah, if they go 0-2, they would probably drop back to that 7 line. I think they'll probably wind up a 6. Like a 5 is in play, a 7 is realistic, but I think I kind of like where they're at.
They have a pretty solid non-con slate, both in terms of just quantity of quality teams they played, and they've got a couple decent wins in non-con that aren't like blow you away, but you add that with a pretty solid SEC record. I think 6 sounds about right for Kentucky.
Yeah. Okay, getting down to the bubble teams here. Georgia and Missouri are the last 2 9 seeds.
I could see Georgia. Well, I know that Georgia sounds about right at 9. I feel like Missouri, now I know their net and all that's bad, but I think if Missouri wins their last 2 regular season games, they should be closer to like 7 seed range. I mean, they could end up with 13 SEC wins. Am I right on that? Or no, it'd be 12-6.
They'd be 12-6 is what they'd be. Yeah.
Yeah, 12-6. You ain't no 8-9 seed. You better be I feel like if they're 12-6 in the SEC, I know that conference record isn't a huge thing for NCAA tournament, but I think their net would also probably go up into the top 45 range if they were to go 2-0, but they finished 12-6, man. I just don't see any way they're not at least a 7 seed.
I'm looking at the teams that they would need to pass, like Missouri, NC State, which if I am correct was getting beat by like 1,000 by Duke earlier, so that's not going to do them any good. UCF, Iowa, who just lost to Penn State, Clemson, who's getting ready to lose to North Carolina, St. Louis, who's been losing games lately. I kind of feel like they should already be ahead of some of these teams.
I think the prognosticators are scared of the metrics a little bit.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is probably fair because, if you're trying to guess what the committee's going to do, this is what the committee uses. But I think that if every single human being with a brain can look at Missouri and say, oh, they're better than their metrics indicate, I would think the committee can also do that. And so who knows? I imagine what's going to actually happen in real life is they'll either go 1-1 in these next 2 or, go 2-0 and like lose their first game in the SEC tournament. And they'll probably end up like right on that 8 seed line. Like if Arkansas beats them, that's not a bad loss or anything, but I think that would solidify them in that 8-9 spot.
I think Georgia and Missouri both are going to be in an 8-9 game, not against each other, obviously, but I think that's
right. I think that's probably right.
Now the question, if you're Texas, because they're the first 10 seed, is do you just want to stay put, or do you want to move your way up? I think I'm actually kind of surprised that's where they are. I don't know. Like maybe I'd have them as a 9. I think that they are solidly in the tournament at this point. Winning at Arkansas would push them up. Like that's a line type of bump,
especially with it being because it'd be a road win at Bud Walton.
Yeah,
that'd be very spicy. But outside of that, they play a bad team on Saturday, right?
OU, yeah. So
it's like if they lose to Arkansas, beat OU, you're just going to stay right put.
You're gonna be hanging out right there. And then the only other one, actually, I lied. There's 2. Texas A&M now. they're down to the bottom 10 seed. So they're flirting with Dayton territory here.
They are, and they've got a couple.
They play Kentucky at home,
which is, that would be their chance to solidify not going to Dayton.
Yeah.
Who do they play Saturday?
They play at LSU.
They'll beat LSU, but
that's
that's
a
not
quad
a win.
1 win, I think.
Yeah, because LSU's metrics are like the same as freaking Missouri's.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. That they're probably going to be fine because even if you lose to Kentucky, you'll beat LSU and you'll get your little participation trophy for that. They're probably going to be okay, and maybe they could creep into that 8-9 seed range. But I don't know, man. I think Texas A&M, that's about right where they belong.
I think so too. At this point, they've really kind of fallen off. Auburn's not even on this thing because they're not represented in enough brackets because of their record. They're in 34 out of 105 updated brackets. Auburn is.
Auburn.
I'm surprised they're in that many.
They're going to need to, they've got a gimme midweek, but they're going to need to go beat Bama before I can even entertain the conversation of Auburn being an NCAA tournament team. And if they do that, then they really aren't that far off, because if you go 2-0, you're 2 games above 500, or 2 games above 3 games above 500. They go 2-0 down the stretch here and beat Bama on the road. At that point, then it's like, okay, yeah, Auburn's probably going to be a tournament team, but I think that's kind of where they're at. Beat Bama or bust.
Let me ask you this question real quick, because I've seen, obviously because of Bruce Pearl opening his mouth, it's and I just want to point this out real quick because yes, Auburn did beat Arkansas.
They did.
And at Auburn, Arkansas returned the favor. Auburn also went on the road and beat Florida. So
yeah, not even that long. 2 weeks.
And that's what's weird about them, because they have some really nice wins
anything
like that. Yeah. And they're losing at home to Ole Miss and stuff, which is just wild behavior. But gosh, I forgot what I was gonna say. It was a banger too. Oh, Bruce Pearl, yeah. So you heard him talking about how Miami of Ohio shouldn't be in if they lose a game, whatever. What would you? So Miami of Ohio, who hasn't even, it's not that they don't have a quad 1 win, they don't have a quad 1 game, and their coach has been very open about, we have tried to schedule everyone and nobody would play us, so we played the games in front of us. A 1-loss Miami of Ohio team that hasn't played a quad 1 game all year versus a 2 games over 500 Auburn team that has the toughest strength of schedule in the country. Who do you take?
I go Miami of Ohio.
Me too.
And I don't feel great about it because as much as it's not their fault for not, it's not their fault that they didn't get to play this awesome schedule. It's also not the committee's fault. You know what I mean? Like, what do you want the committee to do? Just give you a little participation trophy. But the fact that they've been on this crazy run, they probably will just win their conference tournament. Is what I think is going to happen, which is going to be funny because then we're going to be like, why do we spend all this time talking about that?
Right.
Yeah, how many quad 2 games are we talking about? That does help.
Yeah, I can tell you in just
it's only a handful, right?
It can't be that many. Yeah, let me find them. I've got to scroll a ways.
I mean, because almost every conference game they play is quad 3, quad 4.
Dude, they are okay. So 0-0 quad 1, 1-0 quad 2.
That's brutal, dude.
They're 9-0 in quad 3 and 16-0 in quad 4. Like,
see, yeah, that's a little
tough, man. That's pretty.
That's
tough.
That's where it's like it wouldn't stun me if they didn't get in, especially if you lose, because they have a loss right now, right?
No, they're still undefeated.
No, they're still undefeated.
They're 29-0. They should just win their conference tournament. It won't matter. But that's the thought. Like, if they're at a point where they got 2 more games, so 31. If they're 33-0 and they lose in their conference tournament final and they're 33-1,
I think you let them in. I think you let them in, but I will say, like, if they lost a regular season game, I think that would clinch it, especially because it would be a quad 4 or whatever. You know what I mean?
Probably so.
And whoever they lose to in the tournament is going to be quad 3, quad 4. Yeah, I don't know, man. That's tough.
That's
but I think it's tough. I don't think you can have your sport constructed in a way that a team goes undefeated. Because we made fun of the college football playoff committee when they didn't let that UCF team in. We were like, what the heck? If you go undefeated, like, you should at least get a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't envy. Like, I think if you're the NCAA tournament kidding me, you have to be hoping and praying they win their conference tournament.
Dude, Miami of Ohio is 86 at BPI. They're 87th in KenPom, 78th in Torvik. But like, their wins above bubble and their
they win every game by
are
3 points, man.
This is it's crazy, dude. STL Razor says, how would you feel about an Arkansas Miami of Ohio game in a 5-12
I would
matchup?
pray to the good Lord every day of the week for this matchup.
Me too.
I would pray to every god that's ever existed for this matchup. That's no disrespect to Miami of Ohio. They've been on a great run. This is a complete smoke and mirrors operation they're running.
I've been doing like just mini matchup previews at the end of the Pod the Palaces here recently. It's like, hey, here are the 12 seeds. Get to know them a little bit before we get to Selection Sunday. I have done Yale, Belmont, and I just recorded. So South Florida is tomorrow. I would take Miami of Ohio 10 times out of 10 over any of those other teams.
Yeah, Yale. I haven't watched Yale at all this year, but I have watched Yale in years past.
Mm-hmm.
I trust what they've got going on. They've got a well-run operation over there. Yep. They are not a fun team to play. Now they don't have Danny Wolf anymore, who's, by the way, still cooking in the NBA, by the way.
Is
just
he?
giving dudes like 16-7. Like just nobody's business, man. He's nasty.
I like that. I respect that. Okay, let's get into the chats, and then we'll wrap things up here. Let's see. This is interesting. I thought earlier in the show from Ryan, he says, okay, who isn't what their record says on the positive side and who on the negative?
So I lean towards Kentucky on a negative side. Like I think they have a nice little record with the nice little metrics, and I think they are playing below. Like they're just kind of they fluke out these wins, man. Like obviously the Arkansas game, that was maybe their most definitive.
They earned that one. Yeah.
That was a great one. But like even that one, like if they played today, nobody would expect Kentucky to beat them. They've beaten Tennessee twice. If they played tomorrow and Nate Mint was healthy, we would all pick Tennessee to beat them. It's just one of those things where they've got games on their schedule that it's like hard to make sense of. But I think they are a worse actual team than their record says they are. On the other end of it, I'm inclined to say Georgia is maybe a little bit better than their 500 record indicates. I know Auburn is better than their record indicates, but they've worked so hard to get their record. I don't want to take it away from them.
Yeah. Yeah, that is valid.
Auburn would push back against it. If you were like, no, actually they're better than record. They'd be like, no, we are a 5-win team. No, we suck. Trust me.
Right. Where do you feel like Arkansas falls on this? 11-5.
Arkansas is exactly
are they about what they're supposed to be.
They're exactly who they say they are.
Yeah. Excuse me. Not a good time to get a cough. I'm trying to think if anybody else would be. I like the Georgia call.
A&M and Vanderbilt, you could say, are worse than their records. A&M for sure.
They're both 9-7. A&M for sure. They are not playing like a top half of the league team, although they're ranked in the top half of the league. So that I think that would probably be a good one there. That was a good question. I like that.
Oklahoma, I see STL Razor says Oklahoma's better than their record, and I
agree with that.
I would agree with that.
That's
but
a good
here's
call.
The thing. They weren't as good as they are now when they achieved that record. Like they have just gotten better throughout the year, and so it's like kind of all for nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Samuel Brooks says, since it's late in the season, can I get an Inside Arkansas opinion on SEC coaches that could be fired at the end of the season? Percentage chance. Interesting. Okay. Let me go to the bottom of the standings.
Should be fired won't. Like Lamont Paris and Stephen Pearl are both probably going to survive.
I think so. I would say it's like 100% that Stephen Pearl is going to be back. I don't know if Quinn's in here or not tonight, but I think he would probably agree with that. Lamont Paris, I think there's a chance. I think Lamont Paris is going to be a hot seat going into next season guy.
I would agree.
If I had to guess. So I would say like less
what
than
helps
10%
him,
chance.
South Carolina's athletic department has a lot of firing to do because it seems Paul Maneri it's going to be a 2-year deal with him in baseball. Beamer is entering next football season on a little bit of the hot seat. Now he's not, maybe not anytime soon, but it's like if they go 4-8 in football next year, that's a huge, and I think that helps Paris.
Yeah, I think so too. Matt McMahon at LSU, if it was me, and after what we heard from their athletic director, I would say 100% that he's out of there. But the buzz coming out right now is that they're going to give him another year.
That would be crazy.
I know. So I'm going to coin flip it. I know that's a cop out, but it's So
is Porter the best lock to be fired?
He's got to be 100% gone, I think.
I've said it all along. I think he's just going to take another job.
He could
they
do
might
that.
let him.
He could pull a Mike White.
Yeah,
Like,
just
he
be
won't
like,
get
oh
another
yeah,
SEC
I
though.
really want to be the head coach at Illinois State.
Yeah,
So I'm going to leave Oklahoma. You know what I mean? Like something like that.
Yeah. I think he's the safest bet to be out of there. Chris Beard, unless he takes another job, he ain't going anywhere.
Jans is probably staying. He'll get a mulligan.
Jans is staying unless he can find a way out. It just seems like
Yeah.
every year jobs open. It's like Mississippi State's the toughest job in the SEC. Could he get the Kansas State job? I don't think he will, but he's always looking for a way. Everybody else is safe, right? Yeah.
Most likely.
Could somebody get hired away? I wonder. Could Ty go to the NBA?
Nah. Well, nah.
You don't think so? Not yet.
The only thing that I think sucks about it is that the timelines of when this thing, because like usually when a college season ends, all the big coaching moves happen in April. No NBA team is hiring a coach in April, or even May most likely, or even June most likely. It's usually going to be like post draft lottery in late July. They'll hire a coach, and so it's like I just don't think that's going to timing wise going to work out. But I think if someone were going to get poached, it would be someone like Porter Moser, who's like just going to leave his bad situation.
Right. Yeah, I think so. It's relevant to what we've been talking about recently, but this was sent earlier in the show. Hillbilly says I would lean more towards Florida being better than their record than Arkansas being overrated. Florida's they're really damn good.
They're better than their overall record because they played like so many high level teams in non-con and then lost by 2 to all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they definitely did. I agree with I really don't think Arkansas is overrated. I think they're just appropriately rated. They're 20th in the country and they're projected as a 5 seed. And it's like that tracks to me.
There's about 3 games of separation between those teams. That sounds about right to me.
Yeah, exactly. And if you go look at their quads and everything like that, if you put a team that is a 4 seed or below in front of Arkansas, they're probably going to beat them.
Yeah.
If you put an elite, 1 seed type team in front of Arkansas, they're probably going to lose. And so I think they're right where they need to be. I would agree. Let's see. Peyton said the really decent Mike White.
Yeah,
that he is,
solid,
man.
Just solid. If you ranked every coach in college basketball,
yeah,
he really probably would be like 40 or something like that. But it's like I just feel like he'd be smack dab in the middle.
From WKRP, W Pig says, even though Auburn beat Kentucky, I thought Auburn was the worst opponent this season. So he's talking about the teams that Kentucky has seen. It would be hard for me to get on board with that, knowing some of these other teams in the league, but I guess Kentucky didn't play very well at South Carolina, so maybe South Carolina looked better, than they really are. LSU for Kentucky, it was that miracle, that the heave, and the Moreno shot. So that was tougher on them. Ole Miss hung with them. Like that was a close game at Rupp until the final minutes. I don't remember.
Kentucky will hang around with a bad team.
Yeah. So okay. I could see that from your standpoint there. I mean, I think Arkansas fans, actually, I don't think Arkansas fans feel that way because when Arkansas played Auburn, I thought Auburn looked great.
They were a juggernaut. I mean, you got them on their best day.
Yeah, and then they got them on the flip side and took it to them. Hall didn't play in that game, but I really don't think it would have mattered that night. What we're seeing now is an Auburn team that earlier in the year still had belief and fight and togetherness, and now they're just, I think, ready to be away from each other, and that can change the way you look out there on the floor in a hurry. But I thought that was an interesting comment for sure. Jammers Time says, only way Auburn should get in is if they win the whole SEC tournament.
I do think if they go 2-0 in their next 2 and you beat Bama on the road, that's the big one. You beat Bama in Tuscaloosa, they're probably going to be a last 4 in type of team.
Yeah.
Whether they should be or not, it's still up for debate.
I would suggest winning the first one in Nashville, and then they'd probably be okay.
I would agree. And I don't think they're going to beat Alabama, so it's not going to matter. But I do think if they beat Alabama, the metrics say they're probably going to get in.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Got a few more here. I want to pull this up. From Travis Wiley says, Dennis Gates is the difference at Missouri. He can coach.
Would you give him coach of the year if they finish 3rd in the SEC? Or would
Yeah.
it just go to Golden because they're going to win the league by so much?
No, I would give it to Gates.
I think it's the most impressive coaching job. Hell, we had the conversation about hot seats 2 months ago, and he was on it. Not like we were saying, hey, he needs to be fired for sure, but like it was at least a conversation you can have. Not only is he not going to get fired, like that's now back-to-back years. He's done a really solid coaching job coming off 0-18, man. Like, I don't know if Missouri's ever going to necessarily be a juggernaut powerhouse program in the SEC, but I would say Dennis Gates in the last, 700 days has done about as good as a job as anyone could have done.
Yeah, I would agree. And I know they had a couple injuries that I think were impacting them early in the season, but when you have a combination of a really weak schedule and then the games that you do play, they just really got, did not look good there early. But they figured some things out, and I agree. And he's coaching them up. They've got some really intriguing players. Don't get me wrong. I don't know that that's a top 3 team in the SEC talent wise. It's like, I think he's maximizing the potential with that group right now. And he's done a heck of a job. And he's got a couple 5-stars coming in next year. And I'm sure he'll retain a decent amount of these guys. Like they're pretty damn good.
I remember when we had the conversation back in January or whenever it was, that was the thing that you said. You were like, well, they do have 2 5-stars coming in. So even if they miss the tournament, he'll probably still get another year, which now at this point, it's like, obviously he's getting another year.
Yeah, right.
He'd probably get another like 4 years, frankly.
The boys says the Texas A&M Kentucky game is going to be a lot like the Arkansas Florida game, where their lack of guard play gets exposed like Arkansas's bigs did.
I don't know if A&M's moving like that.
I don't know if A&M's moving like that either. But I will say Arkansas got exposed everywhere. Anywhere that you could be exposed and feel seen, that was Arkansas walking out of Gainesville.
Sure. Well, and also it's not like Arkansas has been hiding the fact that their big men suck. I mean, Mitchell from Missouri scored 28 and 12 on them like just the other day. You know what I mean? So it's like Arkansas's bigs have been exposed a lot. This just happened to cost them a win because they also got exposed in the backcourt. And I don't think A&M is necessarily good enough to they certainly will speed you up and make you play an uncomfortable style. And I think they're live to beat Kentucky. But I don't know if they're like going to beat the shit out of them like Florida did Arkansas.
Right. I think this is going to come down to ball security for Kentucky, and so how many times is A&M able to turn them over? But really, can A&M make shots? Because that was their thing early in the year. They were just drilling a bunch of threes. They were making like 11, 12 a game. And when you combine that with how fast they're playing, that's tough. Like that's kind of the point of buckyball. They haven't been shooting worth a damn in the last almost month at this point. They didn't shoot very well against Arkansas. They didn't shoot very well the other day. They had the dude Dominguez who he was shooting like 51% or something in non-conference, and he's shooting like 21% in SEC play. They look like they've run out of gas to me. And if they don't make shots, they will lose to Kentucky. We'll see how many times those guys turn the ball over, because one thing about pressing Kentucky is Owe might be the best open floor player in the league, one of them. And so if he's the guy that gets it in the middle, it's curtains. Like he's going to go score it on those dudes. So Sharkansas says Volkatitis isn't doing anything against Arkansas other than maybe drawing a flagrant against Pringle.
We should trust his opinion because he's been seeing them up close and personal. He's been scouting Texas for a while now.
He might foul out Arkansas's entire front court. He does that. I think he's number 1 in the country in fouls drawn.
I think we should offer up one of our big men as a sacrifice.
Who's it going to be?
I'll let the team make that decision. I have my suggestions, but I'll let Coach Cal make the call.
Okay. Let me pull up Texas real quick. Volkatitis is, where's he at? He's number 3 in the country in fouls drawn per 40. 8.7 fouls per 40 minutes.
Dude.
Goodness.
That's a lot.
Gracious, man. And I know his free throw rate is probably the highest in the country. 7 foot, 255 pounds. Now, he's not going to be able to run with Arkansas's bigs. So if Arkansas is getting stops in there and running up the floor, and he also gets in foul trouble himself.
I was going to say, I wonder if Ewan can maybe, get inside, maybe force the issue against him a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So his fouls drawn per 40 is 8.7. His fouls created per 40 or 5.2. So he would foul out of every game.
He's fouling. Yeah, if you're playing 40 minutes, he'd foul out every time.
Yeah. So
wow, that's pretty crazy.
That's nuts, dude.
This dude just is a whistle magnet. Period.
Yeah,
big whistle guy.
It's crazy, man. I want to pull this up real quick. I saw this earlier today, so I'm glad you put it in here, Doug. He says JQ possibly coming back, strength test, passes he's playing. Stokes is going to visit Kentucky again by his high school coach. Let's take this one at a time. Let me ask Kentucky fans a question. I know how talented Jaden Quaintance is. Absolutely. Do you feel like you found something to the point where you don't want to disrupt that? Because what would that look like is my question. Because if he's taken away minutes from Moreno at this point, when he hasn't played in so long and he doesn't have the chemistry and the connectivity with those guys out there, and then he's not going to have much practice time to get it before he would be in there, what does that look like? If you told me that he's just going to take Garrison's minutes, I'd be like, oh, hell yeah. Let's do it. Sign me up for it. It's an interesting deal. I think you got to look at it from a couple standpoints, Andrew. From post-injury, you have all the swelling and stuff creep back in there. What's the risk involved with coming back just for the tournament or whatever? But also, he's starting to slip into mock drafts.
Yeah, no, that's something I would say. What's the real reward in coming back? I'm sure there is an example of someone with chronic, leg issues coming back from injury and just hitting the ground running, and he's just awesome in his first 5 games back. I would venture to say it's few and far between, those examples. I mean, think of all the Razorback examples of guys coming back from injury to join you during the tournament. It very rarely works out. I remember Michael Porter Jr. doing it for Missouri, and he was like playable. He was okay. But like even Michael Porter Jr., who's a 15-year NBA player, he was not great coming up off an injury for that Missouri team. I have a hard time imagining Jaden Quaintance, who stunk when he was playing before, is going to just come back and be so good that he really transforms anything.
Right. Yeah. I wonder what that would look like.
And Stokes isn't going to Kentucky either, I don't think. I thought he was like a Kansas lock.
Well, I think I saw that his coach said he's going to try to schedule a visit there after the season and everything. So maybe so, but like he's an immense talent, but is that, I don't know. There seems to be like red flags with Stokes. I'm not trying to poo-poo on him for the Kentucky thing. I feel that way for Bill Self. When Arkansas moved on from that, and they weren't going to get him anyway, but they were pursuing him, and then they weren't. I was happy to see that because it's just, I don't know, man. That's just a weird deal. How's that going to work at Kentucky?
Can I read you a just hilarious chat, Curtis?
Yes.
It says, I think JQ could really benefit from coming back and hitting the transfer portal and playing a year under a Hall of Fame coach. Would this break the Arkansas BBN Twitter if Jaden Quaintance came back and played at Arkansas for his junior year? Then, by the way, was just healthy as a horse.
It would. I mean this when I say it. I know people are going to call me crazy, and I understand why. I would hard pass if I was Arkansas and if I was Cal. Yeah. The reason why, and I know there's a weird relationship dynamic because his dad was flaming Cal or whatever on Twitter. Yeah. But outside of that, with the way Calipari constructs his roster, JQ is the last thing you need.
Yeah, because he wouldn't get a backup.
Exactly. You cannot bring a guy fresh off of an injury where he already had a setback because you're not going to recruit the depth behind him in case it goes south. So I would pass.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And I also think JQ is probably, even if it ends up being late first round, he's still getting drafted.
Yeah, I think so too. But the Stokes thing, like, I don't know, man. There seems like a lot of baggage there. And when I think about the way Pope goes about this stuff, is he going to change his philosophy to where you bring a guy like Tyron Stokes in, you're not going to be running a 12-man rotation in and out of there. You're not going to be able to recruit 4 wings to, rotate in and out with him and all that. If they get him, that would have to change the entire philosophy with which Mark Pope is recruited. And then I don't know. He's really, really good. But it seems like there might be some baggage involved with that. You got to kind of weigh the risk reward there. But you never say no to the number one player in the country. That's not what I'm saying. But I don't know if that would go as swimmingly as maybe they think.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment of it. And of course, such a talented kid that he could wind up being awesome. But I think there's so much pressure on Pope.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
which is kind of why it's like, I think it would, I don't want to say it's not a panic move to bring in a top 5 overall player in his class. But I think I could see Kentucky like maybe panicking and doing something like, going all in and just being like, screw it. To your point of like punting on the transfer portal a little bit, although they would still have to bring in 7 roster spots from the portal.
Yeah. Yep. Tripp says, he's talking about Arkansas, I assume. If Arkansas beats Texas, what's worst case seed scenario?
I think this is SEC tournament too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think 5.
Yeah, because you wouldn't fall below Kentucky, Tennessee, and Missouri.
You could fall below Missouri and Kentucky, but not Tennessee.
Right.
So I think it would be 5.
I like that.
Let's see some other good ones in here. Oh yeah, I thought this was interesting from the boys. Good chats in here from the boys.
Yeah.
Like that says Missouri is the most disrespected team in the country, and Vandy is the most over-respected team in the country. You might be onto something. And what's the common denominator? It's neither one of them played a great non-conference schedule.
Yeah.
That's what's so interesting about this. Missouri won all their stupid bye games, but then they had a couple opportunities and they got popped. Vanderbilt racked up on style points, and then they got some of those quad 1 wins that really, are on a different level than other quad 1 wins. And now here they are. And so they've gotten way more benefit of the doubt, than Missouri has. They played a better schedule than Missouri did. Don't get me wrong, but it is interesting because I agree. It's wild to see the metrics with Missouri, but that's a direct reflection of their early season stuff. Sucks to suck. They're playing better now. Vanderbilt just doesn't get punished for their crimes. It doesn't matter how many times they get their ass kicked, and it's happened a handful of times, how badly they've been playing over a certain period of time. They do not get punished for it in the metrics. They are golden. They are the computer trickers of this season.
Yeah, their computer triggers is a good way to do it, because that's another thing is like, I know sometimes fans get in the mindset where we understand that the numbers aren't flawless, so we just say, oh, let's just dismiss the numbers entirely. And I don't think you can do that for any team. I just don't think you can ignore their net, ignore their KenPom, ignore their strength of schedule or whatever. But I do think with Vanderbilt, you have to understand why those numbers are what they are, and it always comes back to that non-conference. When you're beating those teams by 50, it skews it a little bit. And so, yeah, I hope that the committee views them through the correct lens and says, okay, Missouri, their metrics aren't great, but, clearly there's a real good team in there. They're playing great basketball. They're turning at the right time. And Vanderbilt, I know the numbers say they're awesome, but, I hope that they view them a lot closer than currently the projections do.
Right. Bo, appreciate the super chat. He says, who not named Florida goes deepest in the tourney?
Pig.
You think Pig? I think Bama.
I think Pig and Bama are both so susceptible to losing in the first 2 rounds. So it's like hard for me to even like argue one over the other. Because I think Bama, if Bama lost to if they were a 3 seed and lost to a 6, like nobody would even bat an eye.
Yeah, wouldn't be.
Yeah, like it would be just you'd be like, oh yeah, like that's Bama can lose to anybody. They've lost a lot of games to just middling teams this year. Whereas Arkansas's weirdly settled into a range where it's like, I feel pretty confident they'll beat whatever 12 or 13 they face. I feel pretty confident they'll beat whatever 5 or 4 they face. I just really don't see them getting over the 1 seed. So it's like Auburn, Arkansas, as much as we always say boom or bust, I think Arkansas is like locked into being a Sweet 16 and just that.
I think the only 1 seed that Arkansas would have a chance against would be UConn. I think it's the only one. If they see Michigan or Arizona, or Florida again, now we could have a conversation about Duke. I know people are going to be like, oh, but they did play. That was a very good game. Very good.
And Arkansas didn't even play that well.
Yeah. And, Duke's gotten a lot better, but so has Arkansas. Darius Acuff wasn't Darius Acuff when they played Duke,
Right.
Obviously any of those teams are going to be favored to beat Arkansas in those games. But yeah, if you're the Razorbacks and you're a 5 seed or something going into Selection Sunday, when you're looking at the one that pops up in your bracket, you're hoping not to see Michigan or Arizona.
Yeah,
because it's not going to go well. Outside of that, I don't know. Maybe you can do something cool. But okay, let me see if there's anything else here at the end. Anything else cool, and then we can call it a day. I see some Chad Baker Mazzara talking here.
yeah. I got duped by a fake tweet earlier, Curtis, that I almost sent to you.
Oh, really?
You know, one of those ones. It's like the fake reporter that puts out a tweet and it kind of frames it where you're like, oh wow, this looks like a legit thing, and then you click on the profile and it's not a real one.
Yeah.
What was that one guy's name? Scott Hughes or something like that.
Oh yeah, Scott Hughes. He's got some bangers.
Yeah, it was something like that, and it said something about Chad Baker Mazzara, and it was like, oh, the reason they kicked him off the team is because they found he falsified his birth certificate. He's actually 32 with 4 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost sent it to you and was like, oh my god, and I was like, no, not real. Okay. We did just get a super chat though.
I see that. Yeah, I want to pull this one up real quick. Is Kingsley stumping for the lady of the
yeah,
night, so.
He's trying to sleep in the bed tonight. He's
like,
I'm not getting to the couch.
He says, as a person who's been forced to watch a lot of Vanderbilt games, I do think some of the love that they get from rankings leads to some undue hate because they're actually good, especially Tanner.
So we felt this way early in SEC play. Both of us, I would say, where we were like, hey, I think people are being a little too dramatic with Vanderbilt. And we can agree they're maybe not the best team in the SEC, but they are good. And they are good. I just think they're a lot closer to Georgia than they are to Arkansas or Florida. Agreed. Obviously, Florida, they're not close to Florida because nobody's close to Florida, but it's like, I really do think they are closer to the Auburn and Georgia range than they are the Arkansas, Florida range, if that makes sense. But I think Tyler Tanner's a legitimate NBA player. The other guy, Miles, who's been in and out of the lineup, he's very good as well. Like it's a well-coached squad that is definitely capable of beating solid competition. But I definitely think they are, they've settled into exactly who they are, but that's still way better than anybody thought they were going to be.
Yeah. I think and Arkansas fans get frustrated about it because they beat Vanderbilt the way that they did. That's a part of it. And also, you see with this Florida game actually being the exception, when Arkansas loses, you feel it, man, in the metrics. You just do. And it is not on the same level as when Vanderbilt's done what they've done. Like they don't get dinged for the losses that they take. But as I kind of looked through some of their schedule, like they lost by 16 to Texas and didn't touch them. Arkansas beats them by 25 and they didn't budge. They lost at home to Oklahoma, didn't hurt them. They just lost by 20, almost 20 to Kentucky, and it did nothing to them. It's just like, you're not being punished for your crimes. And I think that's what's the irritating thing there. But, they started off with a bunch of wins, and they did what they had to do. Style points, man. I think it was brilliant scheduling by Mark Byington to go about it the way that he did, because they set themselves up for this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, you said we had a super chat. There we go. From Travis Wiley says, you guys are grinders. Thanks for all the hard work. Well, thank you for that. We appreciate it. We enjoy this. The grind's about to be on a different level after tomorrow. The rest of the week is me and Andrew. This is our operation. And John's going to be out of the country. And when you leave the country right now, there's no guarantee you're coming back. So this might be the dawn of a new era. We just don't know. Like, we hope we see him again. But all bets are off. So you guys are stuck with us for everything we have going on for the rest of the week after tomorrow. Maybe we'll sing a farewell song to John at the end of Inside Arkansas Live tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we had to do something like that. But we do appreciate, of course, the support, appreciate the words. But it always does crack me up where it's like we're having the stupidest conversations about NCAA tournament seeding. We're talking about SEC basketball. We're going to games at Baum Walker. It's like, I know it sounds like hard work, Hillary was like, oh man, you worked. Did I? I don't know. I went to a bunch of baseball games and hopped on a post-game show. Like, I don't know if I really worked that hard, but we'll take it.
Oh man. All right. We're good here. We've done all we need to do, I think.
Yeah, no, we've officially solved everything. And like I said at the top of the show, most of these SEC teams, it's not like you can be mad, If you're Auburn, you can't be like, hey, come on, man. No, that's, you lost the games that you played. And for Missouri, man, they've just become undeniable, man. That's the theme of today's episode is I'm just baffled at what Missouri has been able to accomplish. But, man, I'm excited to see how this whole thing plays out. And, yeah, be back here next week, and we'll have a lot more definitive idea of what's going to happen in the month of March. Beware the Ides of March.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it'll be a full-on bracket breakdown preview episode for next week. So be on the lookout for that, and hang out with us. We got all our Inside Arkansas stuff too, obviously. So Inside Arkansas live at noon every day. Check it out. Pot the Palace every morning. Bombastic.
Tomorrow at 3 p.m. we will be live for another midweek game. We're gonna hope this one goes better than last week's. Okay.
Or are you right? Or Roberts?
Yeah, Oral Roberts.
Is it a 2-game?
No, just a 1 game. Thank God.
Okay,
Because we do play. We're scheduled for 4 this weekend. It's going to be tough to get all 4 in, but we are scheduled for 4 with Stetson. So they go Tuesday and then Friday through Monday, actually. Kind of weird.
That is interesting. Very interesting. All right. We're out of here. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Subscribe to the channel if you don't mind before you get out of here. And you can also find all our content wherever you find your podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen. And that'll do it. For Andrew Ellis, it's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside SEC Basketball Live, and we will see you guys next week.